before we left for the Atacama, we were boarding a flight in Joburg Airport. And I remember Allyson actually asked me, just before we got on the plane, he said, "So how do you know when we're ready?" And I remember looking at her thinking like, huh? Like, no one has really climbed out there before, or cycled through the desert and also climbed Ojos del Salado in one trip. So I couldn't answer the question, how do you know when we're ready? Well, I didn't know. We were just so psyched to get out there and try this thing. And yeah, that's how the expedition got going. You can't prepare for an expedition like this when you're in two minds. With a wishy-washy approach, you're not going to get anywhere. And the strength of our partnership was we were, from the word go, determined to do this thing without turning back. Ojos isn't a technical mountain, thank goodness for that. It is a high-altitude mountain, almost 7,000 meters high. And when the next slide pops up there, I was looking at this in the first day in the Andes, and I thought to myself, why did I pick Allyson to be my expedition partner? We get out to the Andes, and she puts on these double plastic boots, and she's never worn them before. And it's like walking on the moon in double plastics.
Yeah, people often ask me why I decided to go. Ladies, it's a man. Trust me. By the middle of 2009, I was in the process of ditching my then husband, flung myself into the gym, couldn't think of a better word, and a training regime that's skrikt for niks. For Cape Town, you speak Afrikaans, right? Yeah, okay. So by the end of 2009, I was now 95 kilograms lighter, 80 which was the husband, and and it was time for a challenge. It was time to do something completely different, and that's exactly what we did.
This is Allyson's I'm loving it pose on Christmas Eve at Tejos. Yeah, we both had a climbing problem, which we shared in common. Allyson had never climbed a mountain before, and I hadn't climbed on a mountain bike since I was a teenager. So pretty much we were going into the unknown for both of us. So we really had to grow and learn as this expedition progressed. In this particular picture here, I was having a bit of a minor meltdown. We had cycled, this is the last day, it's the shortest day of the cycling bit, and we had cycled 30 kilometers. Yeah, that's the only shade you'll find in the Atacama Desert. Yeah, we had cycled about 30 kilometers in about 5 hours. And the one thing Atacama Desert taught me was don't cycle with the expectation in mind of where the end will be, because the road is long, it will never end. So how do you train for an expedition like this? Well, first of all, I had to borrow a bike. And next thing, I had to get Allyson up a couple of peaks in the Drakensberg. But no real gym training regime will actually mentally toughen you for this expedition. I think mental toughness was the most important part of our training, getting ourselves ready.
Yeah, we definitely relied on each other while we were out there. And in order to prepare, I think Marc basically threw himself into doing all the research with regards to the mountain, the route, the area, liaising with the logistics people, sorting out our training, kicking me up the mountain, and basically from there also sorting out what water and food we would need. I did have some skills. One of those was gathering information, so going about finding out from what other people in the region had learned, and also as far as liaising with our charity, liaising with potential sponsors, and doing all the communication, Facebook, social media side of things. One of the things that I did actually rely on Marc for was actually everything to do with the expedition before we went, because I was clueless. I was completely devastated that I couldn't take my hair gel with, but I was allowed to take crampons, whatever they were, and really relied on him to encourage me throughout the entire process. One of the other things that obviously comes into play when you're out in the mountains is reasons to doubt yourself, and they come from friends, they come from family, they come from your own conversations that you have in your head, and also from the research that you do. Things like minus 25 degrees, 130 kilometer winds, no water, arid, don't exactly fill you with enthusiasm. And the 10 people that had gone up before us that didn't summit had come back saying it was completely unbearable, the wind was awful, their water had frozen in their backpacks, and I was in a complete state. the only way to avoid the negativity is to get in your tent and switch on your iPod. This is a curveball. A curveball is one of those things that just happens and there's nothing you can do about it. I slipped off the climbing wall 2 months before we were due to leave. That's what my foot looked like. And fortunately, having a goal has a way of sort of propelling you out of your own self-pity. And within about 3 weeks, I was walking, albeit very slowly. Lessons learned, don't get overconfident. Marc had his own lessons to learn, as you can see here, suffering from AMS, or acute mountain sickness. He also had a lesson to learn. Arrogance doesn't belong on a mountain. And so here we are looking at our oximeter that we looked at every day at high camp, 5,900 meters, same height as Kili. And we were not sure from the onset if the 5 days of the cycling had actually helped us prepare and acclimatize, or whether it would be to our detriment. Fortunately, it helped us.
Yeah, this is Christmas Day, and we attempted the summit. And we were the only 2 people left on the mountain. Everyone had just disappeared and run off back to Kopiapo for Christmas. And it took us about 11 hours to reach the summit. We left at about 5 a.m., got to the top at about 5 p.m., and it was pretty late in the afternoon. And we sort of clambered up the crater to the rim. And I remember tying Allyson in at the top because it was a bit of a narrow ridge, and I tied it in on a clove hitch. And I thought to myself, wow, you actually managed to tie a clove hitch at almost 7,000 meters. That's great. But the one thing that I could take away from this is that we looked into the distance and there were volcanoes that the previous day loomed above us that were now just little specks in the distance. And I just thought to myself how isolated we are from the rest of the world. And the one thing I said to myself, Marc, do not screw this up now because there ain't anyone coming to rescue us up there. Yeah, I mean, we feel so privileged to have come back or to have visited the Atacama Desert. And the one thing that we were not ready for was actually coming back home. We were just not ready for that. And probably our next expedition will be next year. And yeah, we can't wait to get out there and do something like this again. Thank you.
Thanks.